and welcome to today's episode of the Dive Into Reiki podcast. I'm super excited. Today I have Paula Terrero. Paula and I crossed paths 7 or 8 years ago in a training, and we just met ourselves again. And I'm very excited to bring her story to the podcast. She's a Reiki Master trained in the Usui system of natural healing, and since becoming a Reiki Master in 1993, Paula has worked in the Reiki and energy medicine community as a Reiki educator, practitioner, and advocate. She has spent the last 3 decades organizing, conducting, and facilitating workshops, presentation, and teaching Reiki classes across the United States and in the Dominican Republic, where she's from. Paula has presented at over a dozen national and international health conferences and has devoted her career to working with underserved and vulnerable communities, including the uninsured, inner city immigrant populations, victims of domestic violence, the terminally ill, and persons addicted to narcotics. In addition to her extensive community involvement and continued teaching endeavors, Paula has continued her career training with teachers such as Hiroshi Doi, Yakuten Inamoto, and Franz Steen. And she's also the author of Sower of Light, where she shared her stories of her Reiki journey. And I finished that book, and it deeply, deeply moved me. Thank you so much, Paula, for saying yes and being here today with us.
Well, I'm very happy to be with you and to share my journey with you.
Yeah, I'm very happy also, like, we're 2 Spanish-speaking people together, which is not often happens in this podcast. So all of you, bear with that accent, and also we may start laughing a lot because there is a lot of joy of us being together. So Paula, I'm going to start with the question I start every interview is, how did you encounter Reiki? How did it come into your life?
Well, when I came to the United States from my country, I lived in New York for a number of years. And I make some friends there, right? And then we moved to New Mexico. And I had this friend in New York who used to hang out together and explore, art and religion and spiritual practices and music. So when I moved to New Mexico, she sent me a book named The Reiki Factor, and it just fascinated me. I talk about this energy healing that was practiced way back, but we could practice it nowadays, in the modern times. Talk about healing with the hands, and the healing was spiritual healing. So all that resonate with me. But that was 1985, I would say, and nobody around me knew anything about Reiki. So I couldn't find a workshop or how to learn until one day that I was going to the bank, and I passed through in front of a metaphysical bookstore, and they had a big window, glass window. In there, they had many ads of different activities in the community. And there was a flyer announcing a Reiki class. And I thought I must be going nuts, because I never heard of this Reiki. And now, because it's in my mind, I'm seeing this, I'm crazy. But I took the information down, and I called the lady, and she invited me to a little gathering she had prior to the class, because nobody knew about Reiki, so she wanted to explain and to give a little demonstration. And I attended that gathering, and I love what I saw and felt there. I like her as a person, as a teacher, and I like the energy in the room. And I thought, oh, this is what I read about. This is, and I'm feeling the energy now. And that was it. I never had a Reiki treatment before. I never tried. I just followed that call, and I signed up for her class, and I started my journey 37 years ago.
That is beautiful. 37 years. That's a deep commitment to the practice. I love that. No, it's just like I'm thinking at the beginning when I started, I was like such a flighty student myself versus a lot of other people who really were committed from the beginning. And I love hearing that. And so you studied, I think it was in like in the mid 80s, you find this class. And what happened after? Because I know you didn't become a Reiki master until the 90s. So can you tell me a little bit what happened in between that?
What happened was a lot of Reiki. I did Reiki to anyone around me. You know, I was working at the University of New Mexico at that time. And my coworkers come, oh, I couldn't sleep last night. Oh, let me do Reiki on you. Oh, I have a cramp. Oh, let me do Reiki. Or I just say, I just learned this and I think it will help you. And family, friends, coworkers, my plants, my animals, everyone got Reiki. So that taught me that Reiki works, you know? Every time we got a result in one way or the other, you know. And for me, that was confirmation and got me deeply committed to the practice. And then I took my second level like a year later. And then we moved back to New York. And in New York, I had the blessing to run into a group of women that were doing community work with alternative therapies for people that had not the means, you know, to pay for those. That was in the South Bronx, in the St. Anne Episcopal Church. They on Thursdays, the lobby of the church was transformed into a waiting area for the clinic. There were 2 little rooms, where the treatment rooms, and they offer acupuncture, they offer massage, and herb consultation, and I got there by chance because I twisted my ankle when I moved back to New York, and one of my sisters told me, "Oh, you will like these people. Let's go there." So I went there, and when I saw that, and most of the people were from the Caribbean or African American, and I was in love. You know, I said, "Oh my God, I love this. I would like to volunteer in this place." And at that time, when I was in New Mexico, I was working as a translator for the University of New Mexico, the Department of Education. And and I saw a lot of pamphlets around, you know, in English. And I noticed there were many Spanish-speaking people. So I offered myself as a translator. But then the lady that talked to me from the core group, when I told her that she asked me, "Do you practice any healing art?" And I said, "I'm a second level Reiki practitioner." And she said, "Forget about translations. Come here to do." And that was amazing, you know, because it was a clinic where all kind of people would come with all kind of problems. And that was even a deeper commitment and understanding to the way Reiki works. Because, you know, there were no friends, there were no people that I knew. And they got something from the treatments. So I was in heaven. So from there, the ladies in the clinic started asking me, when are you going to teach Reiki to us? Because we started, exchanging. The one that did massage would give me massage. I would give them a Reiki treatment. So they started asking, so when are you going to teach us? And I said, I can't. I'm not a teacher. And of course, I was terrified of even the thought of becoming a Reiki master. So that's for masters, And then, but that request was over and over and over, to a point that I understood that was sort of my call. They didn't want to go to other people outside of their community to learn Reiki. They wanted from me. So I took the challenge, and I contacted my Reiki master that was here in New Mexico, and I was in New York, but we work it out. I would travel to work with her, and then I go to New York and do Reiki here and there, everywhere. and then we meet with her again until I completed my master level in 1993. So that was like about 7 years after my first level initiation.
There is
Yeah.
something I love about what you said, right? A lot of time we try to understand Reiki with the head, like how does this work? How do I make this? And actually, the only way we can really trust the practice is by practicing and practicing and practicing. And I love that you mentioned, because it's so clear on all your journey, those 7, 8 years between Reiki 2 and Master. The other thing I think is very important, a lot of time Reiki, we talk about classes, training, but we don't talk about these communities who are underserved, and and also feel like, as you said, like they want to study with some people of your community. How can we like perhaps support these communities underserved, and how do we teach them? Because a lot of time these people have 2 jobs, they really have like complicated lifestyles, and also perhaps how do we tweak it and make it accessible to them more often?
Well, probably what makes things easier in a way for us is that we are part of that community. Most of the women, mostly women, there were some men, but mostly women that I work with back then were people who had 2 jobs, were people that were single women, single moms, and that were in that space of struggling, if you want, in the daily lives. So we work with them in adapting the teachings when people were ready to learn Reiki. I usually at that time were working or doing the classes over the weekend. But I remember this lady that she became a Reiki master with me, and she worked at a facility in the Bronx for people with addictions, and she has her own program. We gave her an introduction to Reiki. She invited me to do that. We did it together, and then she started holding these, I would say, Reiki circles, where the patients will come and they would do Reiki. There were other people in that facility that were practitioners. So she invited those practitioners and they have their sessions. And then the people that were committed and that were out of drugs by, let's say, a year or so, and were interested in learning Reiki, she taught Reiki to them. But she did it within the time frame they have, or she has as a employee of that organization. They were not paying her to do Reiki, so she had to create her space. So in lunchtime, she had her lunchtime, and they did it instead of a weekend, they did it for 4 weeks or 6 weeks, something like that. They will meet at her lunchtime, and they will work progressively, the teachings for the first level. And that's the way she did it. And these people didn't pay because they couldn't. But the commitment was that they will do Reiki to their peers for a number of months. I don't remember the arrangement. So I think we need to find ways to incorporate it and to bring it to where people need it. I have the opportunity to work here in New Mexico in a integrative clinic, but it's a community clinic in the sense, that it's a small community clinic. And in that clinic, besides the Western model of healing or health, also Reiki, acupuncture, acu-detox, and massage was offered. And we wanted, part of the offerings in that clinic was for people with addiction to opiates. We have a specific program for that. And they have their connection with the doctors, you know, they have the weekly, you say, their regular checkups for the medication, but they also need to sign up for what we call a Reiki, a healing circle. And the idea was that we wanted to share Reiki with them, but we wanted to share other modalities that we felt will help them. So we created this healing circle in which we have a part that we call it a talking circle that was modeled from the Native American tradition of the talking circle, which everyone in the circle have a time to speak and the rest is to listen, you know, with compassion and attention. So we did that first. And then usually it was something that they wanted to talk about. Sometimes we brought topics that we feel were good for the group, but most of the time was what was going on in their lives, you know, what works, what didn't work, what are the struggles, what are the good things happening. And then we have the healing part of the session. And in that part, we have the acuity talks, that the ear acupuncture that is specific, was developed for addictions or to treat addictions. And then while they were laying down, we had gravity chairs, you know, the reclining
Nice.
chairs.
Yeah.
And they lay down there and very comfy. And then we will go they waited, you know, for maybe half an hour. And then we will go and do Reiki on them. And we closed the circle after they came back from the Reiki with the spiritual cleansing on the tradition of the Mexican American and New Mexican healing tradition. So, you know, I would prefer to just do Reiki, but that was the only time we have with them.
Yeah.
And we needed to integrate so we could share. And then they have the option to sign up for whichever of the treatments they like most. So they would come to Acuity Talks, or many of them came for Reiki. And then I will just do Reiki. So, and I have the joy of reporting that 2 of those patients became Reiki practitioners.
Oh, beautiful.
After working with Reiki for a couple of years, I would say, regularly treatments and attending the circles and individual treatments, they came to Reiki classes.
It's beautiful.
And they still practice. Yeah.
And there is something you said.
So I think that's I think we need to go to the people and to be with them and understand where they're at, and then find the ways to share the teachings with them. You know, some people will be there for the hands-on. Other people will open up and want more. And then I think we go from there. That's what I would say. You know, we did a lot of we call it open houses in New York, and we will go to everywhere in, you know, community centers, harm reduction centers, churches, whatever they allow us to go. You know, go group of practitioners, and we will tell little stories and little bit of about understanding of Reiki, because I'm talking about the 90s, you know.
Yeah.
So Reiki was just hands-on healing, and that was it. And that was it. I don't want to say that was it, because we knew that there was more, you know, and there was really a force bigger than us in a way, you know. But the way we could connect with the people was through the hands, and especially in African American and Latin communities, people are open to that
Yeah.
because we are very touchy.
Yeah, no, we're very touchy. Like for me, like yeah, if I want to like support you, like I will probably touch you. Like it's very hard for me. And even though I was born in Belgium, like I remember my friends even as well will hug me until I relaxed, and it became part of me. And yeah, touch for us is very caring, especially as you say,
Mhm,
like someone who's like addicted to narcotics. The touch they have probably received for the last few months or years may not be compassionate touch. You know, it may be transactional touch. It may be a lot of touch we don't even imagine, some of us. And so for
mhm,
them having someone touch you with compassion without expecting anything in return,
mhm.
it's a completely different experience, and feeling
Yes,
safe, you know, must be very, very
definitely,
transforming.
definitely. Mhm.
And that is so beautiful. And another thing I do like about what you said, like you guys, I'm sorry, you see the sirens from New York are sounding probably. I don't know if they're coming through.
I can
But
hear that, don't worry. But I
so
know them.
yeah, it's like crazy. So you guys adapted the model to them, but you also ask a little bit of them, a commitment from them. It wasn't like, and I think that is important. Like, okay, we can offer Reiki One to these communities for free, but they also have to make a commitment to either go to the 4 healing circles, or as you said, to offer some Reiki. So it's then also like the relationship of power feels more equal than you're not bestowing a favor. You're like, okay, I'm
Yeah,
committed to my practice, but you have to commit to your
yeah,
life and share it. And I found that very beautiful, because then
yeah.
it's really an equal person. It's not like I'm this person, this healer guru, like touching you and changing you. I really
Yeah.
appreciated that.
No, it's very important that the person commits to their own healing. And that we always have been very clear that we are not special, that the power to heal if you want is in all of us, and they just have to nurture it. As we nurture it, as we cultivate it, to our personal practice. So we always tell them, even if you don't believe it, there is light in you. And we are here to help you connect with that light and cultivate it and nurture it, and then let it be bright and powerful and beautiful.
That is beautiful.
So, it's like we are the same. We are equal. We just happen to have in a different position in this lifetime. And we learn this beautiful way of healing. And for me, the minute I learn Reiki is like, this is too good to just keep it for myself. And immediately we started doing, sharing, because I think everybody needs Reiki.
I, I do agree with you.
Everybody that is open to it.
Yeah,
I'm not a pushy person. I'm not imposed, but I share this. This is Reiki, and this is how it worked in my life. So I share it with you, and then if you resonate with it, we go from there.
love it. And you mentioned also like your understanding in the 90s was very hands-on Reiki on, and then it evolved and you trained with Hiroshi Do, Yakuten Inamoto, with Francine. How has your perception of the Reiki practice evolved over the years?
I always was looking for more because I'm curious, and that I wanted to know more, how Reiki was developed. I love the Reiki story that Mrs. Takata created. I think it was very creative and very smart, and opened the doors for Reiki to be practiced in this side of the world and accepted. But there was a moment that I started, I wanted more. I wanted more of how Master or Usui Sensei really developed this system, And I was curious about it, and I always was looking for answers. And then also it called my attention at a certain moment in my journey that usually things that come from the East there is some component of breathing and meditation, and that was not in Reiki. And I was curious, just curious about it, you know. So trying to remember how it came about. I think one of my students in New York sent me I got it confused. Anyway, I got information about Hiroshi Doi's book, and I got it, and I started, you know, with the Hatsure Ho and the different meditations, and I like that, and I thought this was really compatible, if you want,
Yeah.
with my understanding of Reiki. You know, that I was not like very weird or a strange practice that really didn't connect with my thinking or my understanding. So I started practicing those. And then I have the opportunity to go to a class with him in Toronto, Canada. And so after that, I started integrating some of the meditations in my classes. And it went from there. In his class, Inamoto Sensei was his translator because
Ah,
Hiroshi doesn't speak English. And I love him. I was attracted to his energy. And I didn't know he was also a Reiki master, and that he had taught the weekend before I went to Toronto. He had a workshop, but I didn't know him or about him. So I didn't sign up for that one. But then years later, he came to New York and I was able to attend a class with him. So it was just, you know, going deeper into that. So what I feel is that practice like inform my personal practice, you know. Many people come to the classes still today just for the hands-on because that would attract them to Reiki. So I push these traditional Japanese practices if they are not open to that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So my practice or my way of teaching, yeah, I share them in the classes, but it's not like if you don't do this, it's not Reiki. You know, no. It's their understanding and their connection with the energy and their own wisdom and the intuition, how then they integrate it to their practices, to their personal practice. You know? So that's what I'm at today. Open to always to learn more, but from a personal place of what resonates with me and my understanding. You know, I'm not a Buddhist. I love Buddhist teachings, but I love Christian teachings too. I'm open to everything that is nurtures my spirit and then translate into my practice. Yeah, but I'm not like rigid in that sense that you have to practice a certain way for us to understand that it's Reiki. Like we are too many in the planet, too many heads and too many hearts, and we understand things differently, you know?
Yeah.
And in a way, all works, you know?
Yeah. I
If
think,
we approach it with open heart.
Mhm. And I can hear it. Some people are really not drawn to the meditation. Then some people actually prefer the meditation side unless the hands-on. And at the end, that consciousness of being Reiki, of, like at the end is the core of the practice, and you can do it many ways. And as you said, many, many communities and many different heads and different styles. And for some people, like if you talk about this very deep spiritual system, it may be a turn off because they just want to relax. And actually, by entering through relaxation door over the years, they may deepen their practice. So yeah,
Yeah.
we sometimes have to keep it simple versus, putting so much. And I appreciate that a lot. I was teaching a class the other day and we were talking, it was about Western Reiki versus Japanese Reiki, similarities and difference. And what we were talking is sometimes, the Western scares people because they go to like chakras and psychic surgeries. But sometimes Japanese is going the other way, like towards enlightenment or towards words, non-duality that are beautiful. But some communities like, hey, I just want to relax between my three kids screaming, my crazy subway where the crazies are sitting or smoking crack.
Mm-hmm.
That's my experience living in the subway.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how do we keep it simple and
Exactly.
and approachable, and then people can opt, towards those
Exactly.
experiences.
Exactly. And I talking about that, last year I think we had just a gathering of practitioners who wanted to talk, about where we were at with our practice. And this lady said she's 84. If you see her, you will say she's 60, but she's 84. And she's a new into Reiki, like maybe 2, 3 years. But
Lovely.
in the classes, we have been talking about, finding your true self and this and that. And then she said, I had been doing my Reiki, self-healing every day. And I chant the principles. And I feel, because at the beginning she felt like she didn't feel anything and that Reiki wasn't working for her. But finally she said, I feel that I calmer and then I less angry. And but she said, I'm 84 and I'm so in a rush, to find my true self before I die. And I told her, well, you know what? When I learned Reiki, we didn't talk about the true self, We was more the hands-on healing. And for me, if you feel calmer and if you feel that you are less angry, for me, that's enough in your process at the moment, It doesn't mean that you won't grow more, but this is fine. I see you don't have to feel that your practice is not working because you haven't found your true self, So that's, yeah, I haven't found my true self.
It, I,
After all this year of Reiki, so don't worry.
and at the end, words, and again, they're words that there are also certain level of, like, if you're practicing as a teacher and you want to go deeper, you can go to that level. But like, how do we keep it simple for beginners? But at the end, it all comes back to the precepts, right? The precepts is all about letting go
Yeah,
of anger, worry, so you can be more grateful and compassionate.
yeah,
So at the end, it's all,
exactly.
and when we keep it at that, I think also it's so much easier to communicate. And then again, some people really are interested in going more deeper towards like the more Buddhist Japanese style. Other people may actually want to go with the chakras and explore that area and
Yeah.
go deeper, but almost like how to keep the entry level a lot simpler and not add stress. My mentor always says keep it positive, right? If we put that pressure on people to find their true self, then they're going to be worried. So we have to be careful when we use these words, how we use them,
Yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
and also they become commoditized. I think, I didn't hear very much about true self until like I heard a long time, but it was something really intentional. Like it was for certain teachers, certain level of teaching, and now true self has become like hashtag blessed, right? Like, and so we're using words that have a lot of depth a little too easily for everybody. And we're almost like, it's almost like when the symbols like were secrets, like, and they were sacred and now they're everywhere. which I honestly don't disagree with, but we're taking also the sacredness about them.
Yeah.
And I think the same is with the true self. We're taking a very pure, beautiful concept, and by just saying it every day, everywhere, we take the sacredness of that concept, but we also scare some people away or make them worry. So it's an interesting conversation we're not having a lot, and I think I really appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah. I think I absolutely agree with you. There are concepts that sometimes we don't even understand, and we're putting it out there and make people confused and make people, well, I don't want to deal with that because I don't know what that is and I don't understand that. And for me, it's the contrary. For me, it's really opening more and more so people can access this type of healing practice. Because, I feel that in the end, if we really want to have a change in this world, we all have to be part of it. It's not some of us. So the more we share these teachings, the more we help people understand that the power to change, the power to heal, the power to transform their lives is within them. And that Reiki, there are many ways, but for us, Reiki is the way to access all that. And in that sense, if we keep it simple, then we attract people to that. Then we practice with family, we practice with friends, we eventually practice with the community. And I call it packets of peace,
That's beautiful.
We create those here and there, and they expand as we live the principles as much as we can in our daily life. It's like we radiate that. Our actions will be guided by those principles. And yes, then we are creating these little spaces where, when we meet and we are doing Reiki, sharing Reiki among each other, or we have one of our clinics, and you get to a point where it's like stillness, and it's just the energy. You feel the energy. And you feel that deep connection with yourself and the people around you, and said, that's peace,
Yeah,
that's peace. And that's where we want, and at least that one, and I want to be able to bring into the community those moments, those spaces, those touching that, that then you want it more. You know what I mean? When you go there, oh my God, I didn't have any thoughts, and I have this so peaceful, and it's so calm, and I was angry when I came, and now I'm not angry. I think that's what we need.
I found that beautiful. And I was thinking how many times, especially now that this country and the whole world is like, in Spanish we'll say patas para arriba, legs up, sometimes we want to be activists, and there's like so much anger sometimes in activism, right? And when I heard you, these moments of peace and these pockets of peace, that concept, and then they spread and they spread. What a beautiful way to use our practice for peace activism, and a different way of approaching the concept of activism, right? Supporting, and especially when you were talking about the people with addiction here in New York City, I'm like thinking like, well, what if instead of shunning them and just trying to avoid them, we support those people with a practice that is also safe and in safe environments? Then there is transformation possible. Without it, it's very hard for them to transform themselves. So that is beautiful. I have a couple more questions for you. The precepts, we were leading towards that, like, how do we keep this at the end? Is the precepts is the core. So what is your favorite precept?
Well, I will I would change the question. I would say the most difficult are, of course, the first one.
You can say
Anger and worry.
you do not worry. Yes.
Anger and worry. But I feel that well, I don't know which one is my favorite because I love gratitude because I feel that is the antidote, if you want, to anger and worry and fear, and it also keep you like open to the beauty and to the blessings of the universe and our lives, and someone said recently, it's like every day when you open your eyes in the morning, that's a miracle,
Yes.
that we are looking for miracles out there. That's a miracle, that all those cells in your body work, that all your organs are working, that you can see and talk and move, so that spirit of gratitude, I think that is really key to to a to a happy life. And then being honest with yourself or being true to yourself, to your way, is a deep way to honor your own uniqueness as a human, and being in touch with what it is that you are here for in this world, whatever your mission is, to honor that and be compassionate with yourself and others. I think for me is big because I come from how would I say a mindset of feeling less or not knowing enough or things like that, and to know or to learn to be compassionate with myself and knowing that I won't be perfect because no one is perfect, but to honor what is good in me and to understand what is not that good and live with that and do it with compassion is a big one for me. Like at the same time, it's a challenge for all those things that I got from my upbringing. And then it's a gift because it's how to deal with that in me with love and compassion. And that I would say, if I can do that and nurture that in me, then I can be more compassionate and more understanding to the needs of others. So I don't know. I didn't answer your question, but that's my little reflection on the principles.
Not for all of them, and also like I want reference because your bringing was also during a very difficult period in the Dominican Republic when Trujillo, the dictator, he was quite violent and repressive. So I can imagine like those precepts had to work a lot from that childhood, and it's and again the gratitude that he's gone and you're here and having freedom, right? Because sometimes we take things for granted and they just disappear. And it's so I love your book. I was very moved when I read your book because it was lessons in Reiki, but also lessons of Reiki in action through your life. And I really appreciate that. So I'll put the name in the notes for people
thank you.
to find it because I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And obviously, as a writer, I get very moved by stories. So it was very...
Yeah, I feel that I'm not a philosopher. I'm also a researcher for Reiki. I'm a practitioner. So for me to talk about Reiki is to talk about how it works. For me, how it had helped me work with, all my own problems in life, and how it has given me a way to connect deeper with people. And so that's what I can talk about. I like to write. I'm not a writer, but I like to write for myself. And it's about how Reiki had transformed my life
Beautiful.
and how Reiki had helped me found my way. So that's what the book is about. And that's what I can write about.
And I can be being true to my way am I being, right? Like we need to write what
Yeah,
is true to ourselves. And that's
that's right.
what I'm saying.
That's right.
I like actually hearing stories, and I like to write about other people more than my own journey. So here I am, right? I think we have to be true to that. So I have one last question. And you already said that you're very human and not a perfect person, but a lot of people who see you, and again, you have 37 years of supporting others, supporting yourself, having practice, study with some of the best Reiki Master, and you're one of the best like Reiki teachers as well, available with more practice. And even in terms of times, like most people don't have 37 years of experience. So people will say, wow, like, she's a wise woman. I will never be like that. What was one thing? I always like people to share like one lesson, one oops, that give you a big lessons about Reiki or kept your ego in check sometimes, right? Whatever it is that you would like to share. So people who are starting this journey said, oh, okay, this is normal. I can have oops. That's the way I learn.
Yeah. Well, my oops that I gonna share is that was happened like I think it was before the pandemic. The people that work with my students and I had been, we have been talking about doing Reiki in community settings for many years. But then a few years back, I think like 2012, we created an organization that is called Sacred Spring Reiki Collective. And we were invited to workshop, a panel discussion about alternative therapies to treat trauma. So there were people, acupuncture and different other modalities, and we were presenting on Reiki. And we gave our presentation. It was very nice. And then a gentleman asked, he wanted to know Reiki and the chakras system. And for the last few years, I've been working more with the Japanese understanding of the energy system in the body. And, when you learn something new and that you feel that you know everything and that this is better than that. So I guess I was in that because before I, of course, learn about Reiki through the chakra system because that's where we
most of us did.
Yeah, I had available at that time, right? And then he asked something like, if when you give a Reiki treatment, how that affect the chakras, and I said no, Reiki had nothing to do with the chakra system. And then, and the minute I said it, I said, "Whoops, that's not true," in my mind. So that's the oops I want to share today, that even if you practice, that even if you are trying to be true to yourself, there are moments that you make mistakes and that you probably, with those people in that audience, I cannot get back to them and say, I'm sorry, I was mistaken, I don't know what got into me because I know. Now I understand that you are a person, and if you go to a medical doctor, he will see your systems in a way. If you go to acupuncturist, he will see your systems in a way. If you go to a Ayurvedic practitioner, will see your system in a different way. But it's you, it's Nathalie, and it's not your energy system. It's the same. So it's just looking at it from different angles. And that's what I understand that, talking about the three diamonds or talking about the chakras, it's the same. It's the same energy system who had been looked at from different angles, on different perspectives, and different understanding. So that's my oops.
Oops, I had a little bit the same thing when I started, and now I'm like very respectful. Like, and I also explain why I work with tree, because I get really I'm an overthinker. So then, like, is this chakra overactive or underactive? Because I have mode. So it doesn't work for my brain, but for some people, actually really anchors that, right? So, but yeah, I really appreciate that. Also, I'm blushing because I was there probably a few years ago too. So we both apologize about that one. But yeah, I do inform now people, like, originally the system didn't have them, but a lot of people, and you can choose. I teach this way, but you can teach, and I now give the equivalent to, like, this is equivalent of this and that, if so they can follow me. But yeah, you made me blush because I felt like, oh my God, she's reading my mind, like, and that was like, yeah. So I've been there
Yeah,
too.
it's it's when you get to fit or do attach to your own beliefs, at that moment, like, oh my God, the three centers, the three diamonds, it was like, how amazing, we have this new thing to talk about. But you cannot forget how you got there, and as I said, it's the same energy system.
Yeah, it's
It's
exactly.
just that look at from different angles. That's it. But yeah, we can get very attached to our when we think this is right and this is wrong. Yeah. So that was my lesson at that moment.
And I'm very grateful for you to share that. And now I can share something I did for you. So I did,
Oh my God.
and I did, like, we had a pre-interview, and I did it probably the following day. Like, so I hope you like it. It's this woman.
I love
Uh,
it.
for me, I like very much, because the sun and the moon in Japanese culture is golden and silver, and for me that's very part of that beautiful symbol that has at the bottom the sun and the moon. But what came to me is you were this person both blooming, but also embracing people so they could bloom. So
Mm,
I don't know, like, I really love
I
this
love it.
peacefulness. So
I
thank you
love
so
it.
much.
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you very much. It's really beautiful.
You're welcome. It was just this modest piece, this calm, but again, el abrazo. It was this image of el abrazo propio, embracing yourself, y el abrazo a los demás. And that's what came, very grounded as well, but very generous, very lush. Like, so thank you so much,
Thank you.
Paula. It's been such a pleasure to reconnect. You're very dear to my heart. And,
Thank you.
I'm also very excited. We don't hear a lot of, like, Reiki from the Hispanic community and the Latin American communities. So to anyone who's also hearing this and, has been practicing for quite a while, I invite them to reach out to me. And, because this platform is for everybody to see all these sides of Reiki, as you said, where one practice, many, many heads, many voices. And the idea is to really bring them all out and share
Yes.
these stories.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the work you're doing, because that's very important that we learn about all the voices and all the ways that Reiki is practiced. Because, yeah, as I said before, we are too many in the world. So there are many heads and many ways to understand things. And it's very important that we know that there are different ways to practice Reiki, and that it has been practiced for all these years in those different ways. So people have options,
Yeah, it's funny. I've heard, like, people, they practice Reiki and then they're fighting about Reiki. And I was there a lot of time, I have to say. And now I'm like, and now really, like, I wonder, even when my impulse is like, it's like, why are we fighting about a practice that is supposed to let go of fighting, right? Like, it's a practice of letting go. And as you mentioned, we're getting so attached, and we're like, "Meh, meh." That's like, and then I'm like, that's not the practice. Like, the practice is actually to be, like, letting go and be open and be kind. So, I think this was a whole hour of kindness that I deeply appreciate.
Thank you, Nathalie. Thank you very much.